Well, welcome back to the show, everybody. It's just me, Sean Palmer. Today, it's Islander Day here at Seth and Sean Sports Radio. Sean Palmer at SU Lawyer 2001. We'll get that scrolling at the bottom of the screen. If you'd like to be on the show, you're more than welcome to do such. And you can find us on Facebook at Seth and Sean Sports. You can also find us at Twitter at Seth and Sean, and Seth at S. Kamens on Twitter, and myself at SU Lawyer 2001, as we see below. I am trying to find the banners here so we can put our... there we go. So we're going to show that. So that's on the bottom of the screen. So what happened in the last week? Well, the Islanders got blown out, right? 8-0 on Monday night. And I watched that game while I was in Arizona visiting my family. And here we are back in Atlanta for Game 6 tonight at the Collie, at the Barn, at Nassau Veterans Memorial Coliseum. And I will guarantee it will not be an 8-0 game. There's no chance that this can be an 8-0 game. And I expect, Barry Trotz expects, Casey Cizikas expects, everybody expects this to be a different game on Monday night. And the unfortunate part is Sergei Varlamov, there was nothing wrong with his performance. The team just let him down. When you lose 8-0, that's not on the goalie. It's really not. You give up 3 early goals, including one 25 to 30 seconds into the game, and that's problematic. And so an 8-0, and we go to Game 6, and moving to the other side of the bracket last night, you saw the Montreal Canadiens win their game. And they beat the Golden Knights last night 4-1, which to take a 3-2 games lead in the series and going back to Montreal. And look, I'd love to see the Islanders play Montreal because I am leaving for New York on Friday, and Game 1 would be Monday night. And if it's in New York, that would be I'd be at the game. I would absolutely pay the good money. The good part for the Islanders is that Matt Barzal got fined only $5,000 for a hit on Ruda of Tampa Bay. Definitely skirted a suspension. It was a check to the face, the shoulders, with the stick, cross-check, got him booted out of that game, but at the same time skirted the suspension. And that's the big deal for the Islanders. The Islanders do not have many playmakers when it comes to forwards, and losing Matt Barzal would have been a big deal. I mean, a really big deal for their chances tonight. So tonight, 8 o'clock, Tampa Bay against the Islanders at the Coliseum. I'll be making my way up to the bar at around 7:30 and getting my favorite spot. We'll only be on today for about 30 minutes, or as long as I can probably talk, as Seth is on vacation this week, so he will not be joining us. The USA basketball roster was announced today, and it's quite impressive. It really is. I mean, you got Kevin Durant, who once again proved, as we said last week, he's the best player in basketball. I understand you may want to talk about LeBron James. I understand you may want to talk about Stephen Curry. And you may want to talk about James Harden or Giannis Antetokounmpo. I can never pronounce his name. Giannis. It's enough. You may want to talk about all those players, but they're not Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant is underrated. If that's even possible to be a top 5 player and be underrated, or a top 3 player, or in my opinion, a top 1 player. He's the best player in basketball. So he's going to lead the team. Damian Lillard, Bradley Beal, Bam Adebayo, Jason Tatum, Draymond Green, Kevin Love, Zach LaVine, James Harden had to pull out, Chris Middleton, Drew Holiday, and Devin Booker are also on the team. And then, of course, you have Jeremy Grant. And Jeremy Grant, for those that are unaware, Jeremy Grant is a Syracuse alum and went from the Nuggets last year to the Pistons and has wrecked it. I mean, he has completely done what nobody thought, including myself, he could do. I mean, he averaged on the course of the year 22 points, 4.6 rebounds, and 2.8 assists, along with 1.1 blocks. I mean, he took that step. A second round pick out of Syracuse in 2014, number 39. He took that step. He's 27 and he's entering the prime. This is a tremendous honor for him. Looking forward to seeing him in the Olympics. It's nice to see another Syracuse guy besides Carmelo Anthony. The team's first game will be July 25th, which is interesting as three of the players that were picked, Middleton, Drew Holiday, and Devin Booker, are still active in the postseason. And the last finals game could be July 22nd. So that's only 3 days before the first game in Japan. All three have committed to traveling quickly on a private plane. Well, of course, on a private plane, because they're NBA players. So good on that. Good on Jeremy Grant making it. The team is studly. And the team has a lot of moving parts. It has Damian Lillard, Bradley Beal, and Kevin Durant for outside shooting. Jason Tatum for driving along with Zach LaVine. And defensively, Draymond Green and Bam Adebayo in the middle. And look, if there's a player that I love to watch playing, it's Kevin Love. Kevin Love does all the small things, right? He plays team defense. He passes incredibly well. And for a guy that, as Seth can attest, is not a good basketball player, I'm just not. But I love to pass. I love to dish. I grew up reading about Wayne Gretzky and how an assist was better than a goal. And I love doing that. So it's going to be fun. Again, is there any reason the U.S. should lose the Olympics? No. I mean, you have, 10 to 15 of the top 30 players in the world playing for the U.S.? There's no reason they should ever lose. But, stranger things have happened. I don't think they lose this year. And yeah, speaking of Celtics with Jason Tatum, the Celtics are set to hire Ime Udoka as the new franchise coach, and he will replace Brad Stevens. And I know that Seth and I talked about who would replace Brad Stevens a couple of weeks back, and I said it would probably be a first-year coach, and he didn't believe that to be true. I don't think if you're going into that scenario with Brad Stevens moving up, that you were going to see an existing coach take that job, or a Stan Van Gundy or Jeff Van Gundy or somebody that wanted power. It had to be a first-year guy. It absolutely had to be a first-year guy. And Udoka has done very well. He was an assistant under Popovich for 7 years. He left to join Brett Brown's staff in Philadelphia and then moved to Brooklyn's staff, which, look, Brooklyn underachieved this year. And where do they go from here? That's something I would have liked to have asked Seth today, is where do the Nets go from here? And we can talk about them moving on in a couple of minutes. But he spent this year under Steve Nash. He spent several years in pro basketball as a player. So he's a player with the Lakers, the Blazers, the Kings, the Knicks. I don't even remember him on the Knicks, and the Spurs. So, I mean, he gets the job. That's one less job there. Chauncey Billups and Darvin Ham are still the guys that you're looking at, first-time coaches going to get a job somewhere. Somewhere. So now, what do the Nets do? I mean, you keep asking, let's look at the Nets cap for next year. And they don't have much, right? It's all about where they're going to go in free agency. Where they're going to go in the luxury tax. So if you look at 21-22, James Harden has $44 million. Kevin Durant has $42 million. Kyrie Irving has $35 million. Combined, those three players, I'm doing math real quick, 29, 39, 49, 55, 65, 75. 78% of the cap is taken up by three players. Yep, 78% of the cap by those three players. Now, are those three players amazing? Yeah, they are. Kyrie Irving's got to stay healthy. But those three players take up 68% of the cap. On the rest of the team, they have Joe Harris at 11%, at $17 million going into next year. DeAndre Jordan with almost $10 million. Landry Shamet, Nicholas Claxton, and Elise Johnson. So they have a free agent in Spencer Dinwiddie. Bruce Brown is a restricted free agent along with Mike James. And then you have the minimum guys. Jeff Green, Blake Griffin, Wilson Chandler, Tyler Johnson, TLC, who were on one-year contracts and are now free agents. So where does this team go? How are they going to improve? A sign-and-trade with Spencer Dinwiddie? The cap figure 17. Sign-and-trade would behoove the Nets, but does a sign-and-trade behoove another team? Spencer Dinwiddie coming off an ACL surgery. After he tore his ACL, what goes on there? He declined his $12.3 million option on 3 days ago, June 20th, for the 21-22 season, so he has a cap hold of $17 million. But a sign-and-trade would get Dinwiddie more money. It would get him more years, potentially, because it's a bird right. Look, the Nets can go over the cap to sign Spencer Dinwiddie, but it's not going to happen. I mean, at this point, every dollar for the Nets is about $1.50 to $1.75 in tax. So I don't see them going over it dramatically to keep Dinwiddie, considering they didn't need him this year. Bruce Brown played almost 40 minutes a game in the playoffs. They need to find a way to sign him. He's a guy that doesn't need the ball, does all the little things. He was really, really impressive, Bruce Brown Jr. And, out of Miami, a second-round pick, 42nd overall. Yeah, he was acquired from the Pistons in a trade. I don't remember what the trade was. Let me get that. I'm sorry, I forgot. A three-team deal. So this was Landry Shamet coming back, and the Nets giving up Dizan Musa and a second-round pick. So the Nets made out pretty well in this one. And then we started talking about the lottery from last night. In the lottery last night, the Pistons have the ability to go get Cade Cunningham, who is the number one pick in the draft, in all likelihood. So the biggest winners from the draft, it's the Pistons, no question about it. Oklahoma City, who had so many draft picks. And they still have so many. They have a 35 picks in the next 7 years. 35 picks. So there was So they had... So the Thunder, who had a non-zero chance that they could walk away with a pair of top 5 picks, their own, and then the Rockets. Nope, they didn't get any of that. They collected the number 6 pick, and in what you say is generally a 5-person draft between Cunningham, Evan Mobley, Jalen Suggs, Jalen Green, and Jonathan Kuminga, they get the 6th pick. Not exactly great for them. The Raptors, they move up. So the Cavs are number 3, and the Raptors are number 4, who landed at number 4 with only an 8.5% chance. And again, looking at Jalen Suggs, looking at somebody that will take over for Kyle Lowry. So Lowry's entering free agency. Maybe they bring him back, maybe they don't. But Jalen Suggs is a perfect fit for this franchise. Another loser is the Timberwolves. And you're saying, well, was it really a loss? The Timberwolves had a top 3 protected pick. So if they got the 4 pick, then it would have gone to Golden State. If they got the 5 or 6, 7, whatever. But if they got a top 3 pick, they would have kept it. So was it really a blow? I don't know. I understand the concept that the Timberwolves will probably be a better team next year than they were this year. But next year's pick's an unprotected pick. So even if they are better and they're still in the lottery next year, they get the number 1 pick, that would have gone to Golden State. I think giving up the pick this year was a better idea, especially since it's 7 and not 4. But they already have some really young players in Anthony Edwards, Karl Anthony Towns, D'Angelo Russell. Let's put them all together. Let's see what they can do. So not really a loss. And then, you got the Rockets. So the Rockets had the worst team in the league. And they should have gotten the number 1 pick if there wasn't a lottery, but they wound up with the number 2 pick. So it could be Mobley, it could be Green, it could be Suggs. As long as they were in the top 5, they were doing pretty well. So they did okay, right? They're going to be able to get a co-star for Christian Wood. They're going to do just fine. And maybe the Rockets make a play. Maybe they move up and do well next year in the loaded West. I don't think so, but are they a winner in this draft? Well, I guess they're a winner insofar as they didn't lose, right? That's more of the point, is that they didn't lose. So just to go over the lottery results. The Pistons pick first, Rockets second, Cavaliers third, Raptors fourth, Magic. The Magic continuously, they got the 5th pick in the draft of a 5-person draft. So they're a winner, I guess. But man, they had 2 picks in the first 9 picks, and they couldn't win the lottery. This is a team that really needs a superstar. Oklahoma City finishes 6th, Golden State 7th, Orlando again 8, so they have 5 and 8. Sacramento at 9, the Pelicans 10, Hornets 11, Spurs 12, Pacers 13, and the Warriors 14. So the Warriors have 7 and 14, and the Magic have 5 and 8. And remember, the Knicks have 19 and 21 later on in the draft. So it's a matter of who the Knicks are going to look at with 19 and 21. Do they want two rookies? Are they going to push one into the future and maybe stash one in Europe? Who knows? But kudos to Ben Wallace. Ben Wallace gets is the representative for the Pistons, the number 1 pick in the draft, and as the tagline on Twitter was all last night, fear the fro. And look, I don't think Ben Wallace is a Hall of Famer. I get both sides of the argument. He's not really a Hall of Famer to me. But hell yeah. Look, if you're going to have a rep, he's the rep to have. Okay, so let's move on to baseball for a little bit. Wander Franco, 20 years old, the number 1 pick, the number 1 prospect in baseball, made his first appearance last night, and it didn't take long. He started at third base for Tampa Bay. They lost 9-5, but the kid, the 20-year-old kid, he only doubled, homered, drove in 3 runs, and had a curtain call in his first game ever. He also walked. So, kudos to those fantasy players that picked up Wander Franco. I consider myself one of them, as I have him in one league. He is the real deal. And look, he has been one of those guys that you are waiting for and have been waiting for, especially if you are a Toronto Rays fan. He's one of those young bucks, one of those guys that is definitely going to lead that team, hopefully for the foreseeable future. And the unfortunate part about Tampa Bay is unless they get a new stadium, they're probably not going to be in Tampa Bay for much longer. And you hope that Wander Franco is able to play in Tampa Bay for a while. So he definitely had an amazing debut. Unfortunately, they lost. So we're here on June 23rd, and we should go through some of the standings because we don't talk baseball on this show because Seth's not a huge baseball fan. But look, the Red Sox are 44-29, which nobody had them there. The Devil Rays, I still call them Devil Rays. The Rays are 43 and 31. The Yankees are disappointing 38 and 34. The Blue Jays are 36 and 35. And then the Orioles are 23 and 50, which is where we thought they would be. 21 games behind the Red Sox. In the Central Division, the White Sox are 44 and 30. We had them right there. Cleveland's 40 and 31, 2.5 games back. The Royals 33 and 38, 9.5 games back. Detroit 32 and 42. And then the disappointment of the year so far is the Minnesota Twins. 31 and 42, 12.5 games back, and a run differential of minus 52. You want to consider the Yankees a disappointment. They have a run differential of minus 1. Just to give you some context, Toronto, who is a 500 team, has a run differential of plus 44. But you're looking at the Twins and you're saying, how? Well, they're just not getting offense. And they're giving up a ton of runs. They've given up 389 runs, and I think that probably leads the league. 389 leads the American League, with the Diamondbacks at 422 in the National League. So, going down to the West, the Astros leading the division 45 and 28, followed by the Athletics, the Mariners, the Angels, who I had in the playoffs, but without Mike Trout for the majority of the year so far. And then the Rangers at 26 and 47, 19 games behind. So you can count out the Orioles. You can 12.5 for the Twins. You're on the verge of counting them out. You can count out the Rangers, 19 behind. When you work into the National League, the Mets are in first place, 37 and 31. And the Braves are 4 games behind, as are the Nationals and the Phillies. So while this division is not as great as we thought, it is definitely, they're killing themselves. Even the Marlins in last place are only 8 games behind. Now, something to look at is that the Marlins have played 4 more games than the Mets. So the Mets have 4 games in hand on the Marlins, the Braves, all the teams. 4 games in hand. So they have to play 4 more games. They have a run differential of plus 16. And here's something you don't see every day. The Marlins, who are in last place, have a run differential of plus 17. So they actually have a bigger run differential than the Mets in first place. What's setting the Mets apart? The Mets are 21 and 9 at home. And that is the best record, percentage-wise anyway, of any team. The Giants are 24 and 10, and the Boston Red Sox are 20 and 17. That doesn't do it. The White Sox are 27 and 12. They've played a lot of games at home so far. Going to the National League, surprisingly, the Brewers and the Cubs are first and second at 41 and 33. The Reds, unfortunately, are 4 games behind. A team that I still have some high hopes for, but so far not so much. The Cardinals are a game behind them, and then the Pirates are 14 games behind. And then you look at the West, and you knew it was going to be those first 3 teams, and then the other 2. But you didn't think the Giants were going to be at the top. The Giants are 47 and 26, followed by the Dodgers, and then the Padres. You thought I picked the Padres first, and then the Dodgers. And then Colorado is 17.5 behind. And then the Diamondbacks are 27 behind. So if you're looking at teams that are automatically sellers right now, the Diamondbacks, the Rockies, the Pirates, the Rangers, the Twins, and the Tigers, and Baltimore. Now, do those teams have anybody to buy? Look, the Twins, Kent Maeda came back. They certainly have Miguel Sano and Brian Buxton, if that's going to happen. But at the same time, is this the time that you're going to make those deals? Deadline coming up in a month and a couple of weeks. So anyway. Whew. Okay. So we're going to wrap this show up because we got 5 minutes to go. Again, if you're not watching Jake DeGrom, and I can't say this enough, if you're not watching Jake DeGrom, you're not seeing history in the making. Every single time he pitches, It's must-see television. And to give you an understanding of what that is, Jacob deGrom right now has pitched in 12 games. He's 7-2. 72 innings. Let's just put this in perspective. 72 innings. He's given up 4 runs. 4 earned runs. He struck out 117 batters in 72 innings. So his K per 9, strikeouts per 9 innings, 14.6, and his ERA and WHIP are the same. 0.5 to 0.51. Ladies and gentlemen, it's must-see TV every single time he pitches. And I hope that you pay attention because this is, as Seth said last week, Koufaxian. He is having an amazing run. An absolutely amazing run. His WHIP over the last 4 years is under 1. His ERAs in the last 4 years, 1.7, 2.4, 2.3, and 0.5. So last year he pitched in 12 games. It's perfect because this year he pitched in 12 games. Last year he went 4-2. This year he went 7-2. And wins are not everything. We understand that. His ERA last year, 2.38. His ERA this year, 0.5. His WHIP last year, 0.96. His ERA this year, 0.5. 104 strikeouts last year, 117 already. This is historic. And if you have the chance to watch him, I suggest that you do. So finally, the Islanders play at 8 o'clock. I am eagerly looking forward to watching that game. I will be right in front of the TV and perhaps tweeting a little bit about it at Seth and Sean or at SU Lawyer 2001. So next week, Seth will be alone as I am taking my much-needed vacation. And until 2 weeks from now, I hope that you all have a very happy and safe July 4th. Enjoy the Independence Day and the day off. And we'll talk to you in a couple of weeks. Have a good one, everybody. Bye-bye.